Hello and welcome back, everyone. Thank you very much for tuning back in again. This is the second part of the presentation for the Gunpowder Empires of the Middle East. Please remember that your task remains the same here as you are to fill in the content for the missing blanks or the fill in the blank section. And then also your task is to answer any key concept questions that happen to appear. So let's continue on talking about the Safavid empires and the Mughal Empire of the Middle East. So, the Safavids were Turks living in Persia who built a powerful gunpowder army and created an empire in modern-day Iran. As you guys are aware, Iran is one of the countries, really big country today, but it's really key to the story of the Middle East. Now, unlike the Ottomans who were Sunni Muslims, the rulers of the Safavid Empire believed in Shia Islam, and so therefore they strictly converted the people that they conquered. The Safavid Empire is depicted right here in purple. And as you can see, they are in the middle part of our three empires of study for today. Additionally, Safavid rulers were called Shahs, which is the Persian title for king. If you've ever heard of the title or usage of the word Shah before, you might know what that means now. The greatest ruler of the Safavid Empire was Shah Abbas, who came to power in 1587, and Abbas borrowed ideas from outside groups to improve the Safavid Empire. What's really interesting about him per se is the fact that he was able to use the Ottoman idea of janissaries and use the merit system to employ government workers and introduce religious toleration, which helped the Safavids trade with European Christians. As you guys are aware, tolerance can be key to good diplomatic relations which help empires and people prosper. Art flourished, especially carpets that blended Persian and European designs, and these became luxury items highly desired by Europeans. And here's a great depiction of what this type of artwork conveyed by these types of people on carpets would look like. Now, the decline of the Safavid Empire is quite easy to note here because, like the Ottomans, Shah Abbas blinded or killed his most capable sons in order to keep his own power. Some of these empires consolidate power for their own willful decree, and as a result, weak leaders led to a rapid decline of the Safavid Empire, leaving thus behind a power vacuum to be scooped up by other people. So while the Ottoman Empire lasted until 1922, the Safavid Empire fell in 1747, much earlier. However, because of their central location and control of the world for the part that they had, we cannot overlook their contributions. Now let's go ahead and move on to the Mughal Empire. The Mughal Empire is also noteworthy as well for our study of gunpowder empires for the following few reasons. Let's go ahead and delve deeper, shall we? So the Mughals were Muslims who descended from Turks, Afghans, and Mongols living in the Central Asia. As you can see here, this is a picture of India. And in many ways, the Mughals were part of the northern faction of the country as we now know today as India. Now, like Ottomans and Safavids, the Mughals built a powerful army with guns and cannons too. One of the key parts of understanding world history is understanding the transfer of artillery and warfare apparatus, and of course, guns are a game changer for world history and civilization. So in 1494, Babur became king of the Mughals, and he expanded the army and began invasions into India to create his empire. What's really interesting about this is that he was able to do so with such great sheer force that he found success. In 1556, Babur's grandson Akbar became king of the Mughal Empire and expanded the empire into almost all of India. And this map right here once again depicts this type of takeover, of course noting the years of advancement and control. Akbar was the greatest of all the Mughal rulers, but what also made him the greatest are some of the other characteristics conveyed here. Akbar's greatest achievement was cultural blending and religious toleration that he instilled throughout his empire. He held religious discussions with Hindu and Muslim scholars. And as you guys may or may not be aware today, these two religious factions, especially in the pockets of India, do not get along. However, Akbar ended the tax that non-Muslims were required to pay, creating a fair and affordable tax system throughout his empire. Because he was Muslim, ruling in a largely Hindu region, Akbar allowed non-Muslims to worship freely. And once again, we see tolerance at work here. Akbar had many wives, including Muslims, Hindus, and Christians. The best example of Akbar's tolerance was his creation of a new religion called the Divine Faith. Now, let me try my best to explain what the Divine Faith is, but it's basically an example of syncretism, because it blended ideas from Islam, Hinduism, Christianity, and if you remember from earlier, Zoroastrianism. Zoroastrianism is more of an ideology from the Persians that we had alluded to before in this class, and we studied that as well. What's interesting about the Divine Faith here is that Akbar hoped that this type of faith would end conflicts between Muslims and Hindus. However, the divine faith never attracted many Muslim or Hindu converts, and when Akbar died, so did the divine faith. I guess in many ways we have to give him credit for trying. However, this just goes to show you that not all religious phenomenon catches on like wildfire. During Akbar's reign, art also flourished too. In fact, some of these paintings are iconic with Mughal culture still to this day. Mughal artists were known for their colorful paintings called miniatures. And here's an example of a miniature from the Mughal Empire as well. Mughal architecture was known for blending of Hindu and Islamic designs, and if you were to travel to different parts of India today, you would find that as well. Here's a depiction from the Taj Mahal, which is one of the most iconic structures in all of India and the world. Once again, the Taj Mahal, what makes it so interesting is not just its architectural design, but the reasons upon which it was built too. It was actually built in 1631 by Shah Jahan. Now, the decline of the Mughal Empire is also easy to explain because the Mughal Empire grew weak by 1700 as rulers spent just way too much money on palaces and war, while famine brought starvation to millions. And of course, people began to be disgruntled as their needs were not being met by a central bureaucracy. Also, a large population of Hindus in India began to revolt against their Muslim rulers, thus creating a cultural clash that could never be rehealed. As you guys are aware, religion sometimes creates more problems than solutions throughout world history, as people can't seem to get along and consolidate togetherness. Great Britain took advantage of this weakness and therefore conquered India and removed the last Mughal emperor from power in 1858. And then Great Britain, of course, would rule India systematically for many, many years. So in conclusion, what can we draw about these three dynamic empires of the Middle East, and how do they help us understand really the story of all of us? Well, the Ottomans, Safavids, and Mughals built large Islamic empires using gunpowder militaries. And as stated before, these empires provided new contributions in culture, law, art, and religion. We cannot overlook the fact that these types of people had great power and influence over much of the Middle East and the world. But their decline by the 1800s allowed newly industrialized European nations to dominate Asia. Just like we talked about with the story of Africa, the Middle East would soon be prime pickings for colonization and territorial division for European superpowers. So there you guys have it. That's the story of the gunpowder empires of the Middle East. Hopefully now you have a better understanding of the different types of people who ruled and sought dominion and controlled much of the Middle East and arguably the world for a good pocket of time. Alright, thank you very much for tuning in, and good luck with completing the rest of the lesson.